Hello, and
Hello.
welcome to Mother Murderer Podcaster, the podcast where we celebrate the best and the most outrageous TV movies of the 80s and 90s. I'm Louis Jordan, a writer,
And I'm Katie Madonna Lee, a filmmaker.
and this week we're covering the 1982 TV movie Paper Dolls, starring Darryl Hannah, Alexandra Hall, Joan Hackett, Eric Stoltz, Craig T. Nelson, and the legend, the icon, Alexis Colby Carrington herself, who just turned 91, Joan Collins, darling.
Joan.
And it aired on ABC on Monday, May 24th, 1982. And it was so popular that it inspired a TV series also called Paper Dolls, which ran for one season in 1984. And here with us, we have Morgan Fairchild, star of the. You
I run
really
my own modeling agency.
for our audio listeners, Katie is absolutely serving Morgan Fairchild, 1984. I own 51% of this company. Um, she's
And for
got
Carrington Colby.
yes, she's got the 80s blush. She's got the blue eye makeup, um, the wig, everything. She's giving you a full look, and the Morgan Fairchild eyeliner.
Yes. I want everyone to see, so I'm gonna talk because on Zoom sometimes they don't let you. So if I'm talking, it's because I'm closing my eyes so you can see how much work I did on my eyeshadow. And this is the Def Leppard brand of Rouge Blush. They have their own brand. I use that. Yes, I
Oh my
did.
God. It's amazing. You have surpassed all expectations. Um,
Paper
but
dolls.
this is the perfect one for it because this movie has got, well, it's got everything kind of. Everything that we look for, except maybe like murder, but
Yeah,
everything that we look for on this podcast because it's.
which
Hmm?
could have happened. I either the stage mother would have finally killed somebody, or somebody would have killed the stage mother.
Yeah, no, it could have happened. There was maybe emotional death in this movie, but
Yes.
we've got camp looks, but then we also have great acting.
Mm.
So the Paper Dolls has everything. So I'm gonna give a quick little summary, and then we can get into it with Paper Dolls. Taryn Blake, played by Darryl Hannah, is a supermodel, and she's only 16. Led by her stage mother, Julia, played by Joan Hackett, and her bitchy, glamorous agent, Racine, Joan Collins, Taryn has been a model since she was a baby, but she's getting tired out. She wants to leave the business and her controlling, manipulative, narcissistic mother and break into movies. At the same time, Laurie Caswell, played by Alexandra Paul, is a normal high schooler with the normal problems, a normal family, normal friends, and a normal boyfriend named Steve, played by Eric Stoltz. But she dreams of being a model. One day, Laurie and her mother, Dinah, played by Jennifer Warren, are on a day trip to New York City. By chance, Dinah runs into some old friends of hers from the days when she was trying to be a fashion designer in the big city, who are now working as makeup artists on a fashion photo shoot. The photographer snaps some pics of the makeup artists, Dinah and Laurie, and the photographer notices how beautiful and photogenic Laurie is. So Laurie starts to book some modeling jobs through these connections and catches the attention of Racine. Now, Dinah gets very invested in Laurie's career, but her stepfather, Michael, played by Craig T. Nelson, feels that the modeling industry will make Laurie grow up too fast. Laurie's boyfriend starts getting jealous of all the time she spends on her career. Her friends are getting jealous of the attention she's getting. Meanwhile, Taryn signs to be the face of a famous but predatory designer, Wesley Miles, played by Mark Singer, new clothing collection. But Taryn would much rather be doing films. And Wesley is put off by her lack of interest, and he wants to fire her and hire a fresh face instead. So Racine suggests that instead they pair up Laurie and Taryn as innocence and experience, which is so funny because they're both 16, to do the campaign together. So Taryn's mother, Julia, is furious about this, and she coaches her daughter to sabotage Laurie during their duo photo shoot in Hawaii. And after Taryn knocks Laurie into the ocean, they get into a cat fight in the dressing room, and they're smearing makeup on each other's faces. And then they catch a glimpse of each of themselves in the mirror, and they bust out laughing. And pretty soon they're bonding and having fun. And despite Julia's attempts at sabotage, Taryn and Laurie become best friends. So Laurie's boyfriend is so jealous, he tries to force himself on her, and then he breaks up with her. And her friends become unbearably mean. She wants to quit high school and get a tutor like Taryn, who's the only person in Laurie's life who understands what she's going through. Meanwhile, Taryn is surrounded by adults, and she has her first real teenage friend who they can have sleepovers and do normal stuff Taryn never got to do. And her mother, Julia, becomes incredibly jealous and tries to stop Taryn from seeing Laurie. As Laurie's friends are abandoning her, her parents, Dinah and Michael, start to fight and talk about divorce, and Laurie feels it's her fault. So the designer, Wesley Miles, sees Laurie's vulnerability when she starts to cry during a photo shoot, and he starts to groom her, telling her, oh, if you ever need anything at all, just give me a call. I'm here for you. So one day, due to the meddling of Julia, Laurie discovers that her mother is flirting with, possibly having an affair with, this man in the modeling industry. And she's distraught. She doesn't want to go home. She's not sure where to turn. So she calls Wesley. And of course, Wesley doesn't help her. He tries to have sex with her. And when Laurie rebuffs him, he accuses her of leading him on, and he orders her out. So Laurie calls her stepfather, Michael, crying, and he drives into the city to pick her up. Laurie tells him she wants to get out of the modeling business, but she can't because the next morning she's set to sign a contract with Wesley. So the next day at the meeting, Racine and Wesley are trying to talk Dinah into signing the contract on her daughter's behalf when Laurie and Michael burst in. Michael punches Wesley in the face and announces that Wesley tried to assault Laurie and that his daughter is through with modeling. And Dinah is horrified and guilt-ridden at what she's exposed her daughter to. So later back at their home, Dinah apologizes to Laurie for trying to fulfill her own thwarted ambitions in fashion through her daughter. Laurie hugs her, and they start to repair their relationship. A few months later, Laurie and her boyfriend, again, Steve, are in NYC, and they stop to say hi to Taryn at a photo shoot. And Laurie is really happy to see Taryn, but Taryn is kind of chilly and distant and acting like a big star. And it becomes clear that they're saying goodbye to each other, that there's no way that they can remain friends in these two different worlds. And as the photo shoot starts up, Taryn watches Laurie and Steve walk away, just two normal teenagers living a normal, happy life that she will never get to experience. And she starts to cry. But the photographer just asked her to look tragic like Garbo and Anna Karenina. So he loves her reaction and he keeps snapping pictures. Laurie gets out, but Taryn is still trapped in that world. First thing that I wanted to ask was, Katie, how did you discover this movie?
Actually, it was a mutual find. You and I were deep diving through some IMDb tunnel, and I remember you said, "Oh, Terry Farrell, she was in Paper Dolls," and then I just started clicking Paper Dolls. What's this? And you were like, "Oh, it was like this Dynasty show," and I had watched all 9 seasons of Dynasty already, as you know, because
Yes.
I've watched it twice. I'm running out of Dynasty, and they don't have Dallas on Pluto, so I was like, "Oh, okay." So after our phone call, I went on YouTube and I put in the TV movie because it came up Paper Dolls, and I was like, TV movie. So I watched it, and as soon as it opened with the theme song, dun dun dun, Paper Dolls, and the photo shoot, I was like, I loved it, and I watched it nonstop. I quit doing everything I had planned, which is rare. And I loved it. It was such a good TV movie, and I was like, how did I never hear of this? This is brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So that's how.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't realize it was so like late on, but did you have any like memories of the TV show at all, or like it existing? I guess it only was there for one season, so
I only remembered the only modeling show I remember was this like Angelian show that was on for like a half a season about her being a model, like she it was like a wholesome show where she was like, it was weird. I don't know. It was a good show,
yeah.
but they took it off. It was only there it was on Sunday nights. And then Models Inc., which was another Aaron Spelling. I really tried to like it. I really did. I really did. But it didn't stay. They did have shoulder pads, but they were like more 90s shoulder pads, like gray. They weren't like, these shoulder pads are not as severe as they should be. And that's on me because like
how dare you not have linebacker shoulder pads?
There we go.
Come on,
there it
get
is.
with the program.
I know. There I am, sir. I was like, oh, I don't look like Linda Evans.
Oh my God. Are you just doing this?
No, they're actually up. I got them
okay.
Up. This
okay,
is the way they're supposed to look.
Yeah, you got to zhuzh your shoulder pads up.
I squeezed them. They're up. I'm not doing this. See, my shoulders are down.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Yes.
So one thing that I think that might kind of separate this movie from, because there's a lot of like fun campy stuff, and the photo shoots are absolutely campy in this.
Oh yeah.
Like they're giving the look that you're giving right now, and so many more, and just like high 80s glamour.
Yeah.
And also like every photo shoot, people are just moving constantly and just sort of like laughing and giggling and seeming to have a great time. Nobody like has to pose or be uncomfortable for even a minute. It makes modeling look so much fun.
Yeah.
But then there's also these great performances, and I was surprised to see that the TV movie was directed by Edward Zwick. This was his first time directing a film, and Zwick went on to direct major 90s movies like Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt. He directed Courage Under Fire with Denzel Washington and Meg Ryan, and he directed The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. And this is interesting. He also produced movies, including Traffic and Shakespeare in Love, which he got an Oscar for producing. And he produced My So-Called Life and 30-something.
My So-Called Life! That explains...
My So-Called...
Yes, and 30-something, this definitely has early 30-something vibes, because 30-something was the show that broke Aaron Spelling, basically. 30-something was the show that ushered in the the 90s, which was the opposite of Dynasty, which gave way to like Roseanne, and did help him with 90210 and all those more serious teen things. But yeah, 30-something was the first kind of dramedy that it really did. It showed up, and it was like, you better find a new network, Aaron Spelling.
So that's interesting.
Not at ABC anymore.
So maybe this is kind of like a I mean, this was 82, so it was, relatively early on, but it was sort of like it still had that Dynasty vibe, but it was beginning to move towards what they would be doing in the 90s, which is like more realistic teenage kind of stuff. Well, except for the TV series, which I wanted to talk about briefly. So I watched the pilot episode and pieces of a couple of the other episodes. How do you think that the TV series compares to well, here, first I'll say the TV show had a whole new cast. It starred Morgan Fairchild in the Joan Collins part, Brenda Vaccaro, Nicolette Sheridan of Desperate Housewives, Terry Farrell of Deep Space Nine, Mimi Rogers, Lloyd Bridges, who is playing like the Blake Carrington patriarch, Richard Beymer from Twin Peaks, and Dak Rambo, who is the best name ever. And Jennifer Warren, who played Liz Laurie's mom, was the only one to come over from the original movie. But it's so weird because it's the same story. It's the same story but different vibes.
Completely. I tried to watch the TV show. I did. I just couldn't get through it. It was so like the opening, I love the fashion. Like I like the fashion sequences with Nicolette Sheridan, but it really, they took all the heart and soul and struggle that Darryl Hannah had. Like they took it all out and just made her almost a trope. Like, I am a brat and I'm spoiled and that's it. And it just didn't hit. And because I already saw the TV movie and I was expecting like it to match, but it just didn't. And also there was another storyline with Mimi Rogers that was odd. That just was very odd. Like, you're turning 30. It's over. Like, and she looked amazing, by the way. And it just didn't, it rambled, it went on a tangent, it just didn't lead anywhere. It was filler. And then I did watch the John Waite and Nicolette Sheridan clips, so I had to. Oh my God, when they meet, it's so funny. It's pure, it is pure TV movie like esque, where it's like, you're John Waite. I have to tell the viewers at home who you are while we play your hit song in the background and while I pose in front of a giant poster of you.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, they brought on John Waite, who did the song, I ain't missing you at all. And made him like a recurring character as Taryn's boyfriend. And it's just it's so, I don't know. They were really trying to, I mean, they did that a little bit in like 90210, where they would bring on pop stars, but it wasn't done this clumsily.
No, they brought on the guy, how do you talk to an angel? 90210, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I know this song. Yeah.
Yeah, but then they ruined his life because they have him like throw Donna downstairs. And like, he was like, the people were like, he's dead. And like, he basically couldn't get work ever after that.
Wow.
Now he's a firefighter.
Oh my God. But yeah, the TV show, I think it's very like nighttime soap. It sort of makes sense because like one of the writers was one of the writers from Dynasty, but it feels like they're trying to do like, Dynasty does modeling, but and it's very like melodrama and scheming and confrontations, but it's really, the TV show is really only worth watching for Morgan Fairchild, who's having lots of fun, and she has all these bitchy one-liners. She's the best thing in the show. She's great. Apparently, it was the most expensive primetime soap on TV at that time. It was $1 million an episode, which now would be nothing. But then, and that probably contributed to it being canceled so quickly.
But Dynasty was $1 million an episode.
Oh, okay. Maybe I got the information from the wrong place.
Yeah.
But it was very expensive, and it was not finding its footing. And it's I thought it was sort of interesting though that these two Star Trek people got their kind of start on it. Terry Farrell from Deep Space Nine, who played Dax, and Jonathan Frakes, who played Commander Riker on Star Trek: The Next Generation, plays like Racine's gay assistant. um so
That would
it's
I would watch Paper Dolls in Space. Like,
yeah, my God, Paper
Gay
Dolls in
Assistant in Space. Oh my God. I would watch that show, Gay Assistant in Space. I would. Hands down. Star Trek meets modeling meets Star Trek meets Dynasty. Oh my God.
Oh my
Yes.
God. Yes. Oh my God.
Talk about shoulder pads.
um so getting back to the TV movie, I think that the strongest part of this film are the performances. Which of the performances from the TV movie stand out to you?
Joan Hackett. Joan Hackett was I felt her. I felt the Terry Shields coming off of her. And I have met those mothers that working on Flabulous and then working on my other movies where I would have to have a a child actor, but she really brought it, like the scheming and the manipulation and the layers. Like she had it down. And then Darryl Hannah was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Craig T. Nelson was so good.
Yeah.
So good. And Mark Singer was good. I mean, it's odd because Mark Singer never really plays sleaze in his Mark Singer, just so everyone knows, he was a very, very big early 80s actor. He usually and he played heroes. Like he was in when it was also on the show V, and he played a hero on V.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a Barbie doll named after him, Mark. He was my favorite, and he dated Julie. Crystal Barbie, who I destroyed by cutting off her hair and giving her a mustache.
Oh, Beastmaster. That's what you meant.
Beastmaster, that's it. Oh my God, that movie scared the crap out of me when I was a little. I saw that when I was like 3 or 4 at Donna's house on the waterbed.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. He had a great body in that. Jesus.
Oh yeah, no, he was known. He was known for his body. He was known. He was. And but he never really played villains. He usually played the hero, especially in V. He was one of the freedom fighters, the resistance, and he had this ongoing love story with Julie, and he's really good in it. And he's also Lori Singer's brother. Or Paper Dolls. God. Maybe he's watching Paper Dolls.
Maybe.
I want a model for Wesley.
Supermodel.
Yes. But he did a good job. I mean, Joan Collins always.
Yes, Joan was she was basically playing Alexis in this, like a variation on Alexis. Yeah, Joan Hackett, who you mentioned, she was like an Actors Studio Lee Strasberg trained Broadway theater star. She is nominated for Best Supporting Actress Oscar for the Neil Simon adaptation Only When I Laugh. She's like a real actress with a capital A, and she's so good, and she doesn't give like a soap opera performance in this. You really buy her as like a narcissistic, manipulative mother, but she doesn't come off as like a screaming overbearing. She uses like guilt and scheming and stuff like that, and she's wearing these glasses. It's not like a monster mother, it's like a quiet monster mother, and that makes her more horrible. And Darryl Hannah, so she was 21 when she made Paper Dolls. She played 16, and it was the same year that she did Blade Runner. So she'd only been doing movies for a little while at this point. And then my research of her, I guess I didn't realize her stepfather was the brother of Haskell Wexler, the cinematographer. So she had a little Hollywood connection. 2 years after this, she made Splash with Tom Hanks, which made her a big star, and went on to Steel Magnolias and Wall Street, and all of these big movies. And also, interestingly, with all of the kind of like sexual harassment and men being horrible in this, she was one of the women who accused Harvey Weinstein sexually harassing her while she made Kill Bill and trying to break into her hotel room. And then she fled using the fire escape. After Kill Bill, that should have revived her career, but instead she couldn't get a job after that. And you can see that in her resume because she was doing cable TV movies with names like Shark Swarm and Kung Fu Killer. And that's because I guess Weinstein was furious at her for rejecting him and sabotaged her career. But then recently, the Wachowskis put her in this show Sense8. And since then, her career has sort of been on the upswing. And she just got nominated for a Grammy for a documentary that she directed about Neil Young, which she was in a relationship with Neil Young for many years.
Really?
Yeah.
Him?
Yeah, I know. She was with JFK Jr., Jackson Brown, and Neil Young, and got arrested a lot. Be doing environmental activism. Then there's Alexandra Hall, who plays Laurie, and she went on to star as Lieutenant Stephanie Holden in Baywatch.
Which I've been watching as well on Pluto. And she was in the only episode I can relate to, which was the episode where she goes around yelling at everyone on the beach and tells them to put sunscreen on. And it was my favorite moment. She was like, did you put it on? And it was
well, with Darryl Hannah, I think she was so good, and just her performance was able to. She really seemed like a 16-year-old. She really seemed. You bought her as a model, and she looked older and glamorous, but then she would make these goofy expressions and sort of seem awkward and be like. And you were like, oh, she's a kid. And it never seemed like on some of those 90s shows about teens where you were like, oh, this person's like 25 and they're playing a teenager, and I'm not fully buying it. With her, I was fully buying it, and she gave this really great subtle performance. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Antonio Fargas, who played the photographer in this, who we love for playing the sassy queen in Car Wash. With I'm more man than you'll ever be and more woman than you'll ever get. And,
Foxy Brown's, two-timing brother does her in.
Foxy Brown, she's a whole lot of woman. So we love him. Speaking of Joan Collins, I was going to say, so this apparently this movie wasn't produced by Aaron Spelling, but it was produced by Leonard Goldberg, who was Aaron Spelling's production partner on Charlie's Angels and a bunch of projects. And it was part of Joan Collins' dynasty contract that she'd get a certain number of TV movies and also appear in an episode of The Love Boat. And so
Aaron Spelling,
they were like building her up, and so this was the first in a series of TV movies that included the Cartier affair and one of our previous episodes, The Making of a Male Model, which was released just a year after Paper Dolls. I thought it was kind of interesting because it shares a lot of the same story beats with Paper Dolls, Making of a Male Model. It's got this normal person who's swept up into the modeling industry and is used and abused, and then at the end leaves for a normal life. And Joan plays this predatory modeling agent. Also in both of them, there's a team of two gay makeup artists who get the best one-liners and beards, and they're so similar that I actually went back and watched that part, the makeover montage in Making of a Male Model, to be like, are these the same actors? And they're not, but you could have fooled me. So they're basically the same characters. I guess Nolan Miller designed Joan's wardrobe for Paper Dolls, who famously designed the gowns for Dynasty. And I
the
know
blazer I own.
Yes, I know you are a Nolan Miller fan.
And a Jacqueline Smith Kmart sweater collector as well. And I'm serious. I really am. I do. I go on eBay and I look for these items.
It's Aaron Spelling connections, Charlie's Angels. So
fair.
Yeah. So when we were talking about Joan Hackett, you said she was giving Terry Shields vibes, and
yes.
It's pretty clear that Taryn and her mother were based on Brooke Shields and her mother, Terry Shields. And now I didn't get time to watch it, but you saw the Brooke Shields documentary.
Yeah.
Now, in what ways did Paper Dolls mirror Brooke Shields' life?
Wow. So I would definitely say the mother-daughter dynamic between Terry and Brooke, because it really, with Brooke, it really shows like, and Brooke was very careful about her word choices and the way that she spoke of her mother, but she was very articulate and she never said anything cruel. It was more like other people saying that the relationship did have a power imbalance, and that Terry basically got pregnant with Brooke Shields's she tricked Brooke Shields' dad into having a baby with her. Mm-hmm. And because and she was somebody who wanted to be a model, but she wasn't as successful. And once she had Brooke, she was like, she was right away, she was like, this baby's gonna make me, this is $1 million baby.
Yeah.
As soon as Brooke was born, she took her out. She had plans. And it's interesting, in the movie they talk about it, when she's in Jersey with Alexandra. She's
with Lori. Yeah.
With Lori. And she's there and she's like, oh, I have a doll coming out of myself next year. And that is very much what Brooke Shields' mom did. They had a Brooke doll, and everything was about, how can I merchandise and make as much off of my daughter as possible. I mean, she had Brooke modeling, doing provocative photos when Brooke was like 10 years old and 12. Yeah. And when Brooke was talking about this, because basically what happened, this is what's crazy, is the photographer didn't publish those photos.
Was this Francesco Scavullo?
Yes, until she was famous. Because when they went back and they basically there was like a law, there was like she sued them to be taken down, her and her management team. And she said when she went into the courtroom, there was older men there that looked right at her and went like this.
Oh
yeah.
God.
And she said she'll never forget it. And her daughter wants to model. One is more jock, is into sports, the other one is more into modeling. And Brooke said no, she doesn't want her to do it. And it was just what I liked about the documentary. It was like how do people talk about young girls, and she didn't know. Like, she thought she was acting. She thought she was performing. She didn't realize what she was being set up to do. And she looks like the Calvin Klein ads. Like when she's, she didn't understand what she was saying. Like she
Nothing
didn't understand
between me and my Calvins. Yeah.
Yeah, she thought, I get to act, because she wanted to act. Same thing as the character in this. She really was, she wanted to do more than just. She wanted to do musical theater. She wanted to do Broadway. And that's how she got into Princeton and worked really hard at academics, because she wanted to get away from the control, of her mother, and also grow. Because it was a lot of it was her going to her dad's house that kind of saved her in many ways because she would spend weekends at her dad's house in Princeton, New Jersey. And she had a stepsister. So it's almost like, she had a stepsister, a step family, and they were very grounded. And she would play with her step family. They would do skits and be goofy. But when she was back with her mother, it was all business. And she was, had to make her money, and her mom was always drinking, and her mom just kept drinking and getting drinking and more. And I thought that this film really showed that. And how ballsy, because this was in 82 and now the year is what, 2024, and the Brooke Shields documentary came out like a year ago, and Brooke is talking about it openly. So her mom must have like made a name for herself. I remember Brooke was on the Drew Barrymore show, and Drew Barrymore even said, she's like, "Oh, my mom, Jade Barrymore, she wanted to be just like your mom. She saw your mom and it was like, I'm going to do this." But the way Drew said it like as a compliment. But I kind of took it as yowzas.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
because both
I'm
of
like,
them...
Drew, you were at the club when you were 8. Like, you were
Drew,
at the China Club when you were 11. Granted, I wanted to be there with you.
Yeah.
I did. And I was like, couldn't that had a lot to do with why I became a club kid when I was in my teens, because I was like, Drew Barrymore, living the dream. So yeah, I really wanted to be a party kid. Are you kidding me? I was like, take me to bars with you, Mom. I don't want to stay here with these kids. So yeah, so I do get that. But like, yeah, but the Brooke Shields documentary was really, really well done. And it's almost her as a grown woman with a lived experience, looking back at how she was sexualized, and her mom kind of like pushed it. Like, she was in a movie called Pretty Baby, where it was about, a 10-year-old girl losing her virginity for $1 million.
Oh yeah, it was the prostitute, at this brothel, the Louis Malle movie.
And she talked about how like her male co-star said, because they had to kiss in a scene, and he was like 36, and he said, it doesn't count when you're on screen. This isn't your first kiss, because he didn't want her to be like, I'm taking your first kiss.
Yeah, no, that was I mean, as far as you can be in that situation, I guess that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was just weird. All of it was weird. And so I would say, Paper Dolls was showing in almost many ways like how she didn't want her to leave. But to her credit, Brooke Shields says this in the documentary. She says the one time, like, she was at Princeton and no one would be her friend. That like they were mean to her, like the other kids, because they didn't know what to do with her. And she was depressed, and her mom said, if you come home, you're going to regret it forever. So stay there. And she was like, that was the one time my mom was like, gave
mom.
me good,
a real mom.
A real mom. And she, it got better, as she went. But she says that after she went to Princeton and went back to acting, it was like the industry didn't want her because she was smart, because she had an education, and they didn't want that. They didn't want an educated actress. And I was like, yeah, of course not.
No, but I think ultimately, I mean, she had longevity, and she did TV and Broadway and all of that stuff, and like really carved out a career for herself.
Yes.
But
she was really good in Freeway.
Yes, she was. Yes,
I loved her in Freeway.
But yeah, no, it's interesting with this show. I think in some ways it's like you were saying, it's not even as bad as Brooke's real story was. But when I first started watching the movie, I was expecting this sort of like the dark side of fame thing that we've all seen a million times. But I feel like Paper Dolls has very specific points to make about why fashion is a fucked up environment for teenage girls. And I found this thing. There was in the New York Times review of the Paper Dolls a TV series premiere, there was a quote. They said, Leonard Goldberg, the producer of this glitzy effort, has revealed that he was originally drawn to the subject when he noticed the youthfulness of many of the models being used in some of the more sophisticated television and magazine advertisements. He wondered, Mr. Goldberg says, what happened to these children after they finished playing the suggestive roles of grown-ups. And I feel like that it's specifically saying the fashion industry takes these girls and makes them look older and sexualizes them. And then they are left to deal with the consequences of being sexualized in that way. And there's when the designer,
Mark
yeah,
Russell.
tries to have sex with Lori. He's like, what do you think that you're doing up there? You're being sexy. And she's like, no, it's just pretend. And he's like, yeah, but some part of you is loving it. You know what effect you're having. And she's like, no, I don't. And it's like, to her, it's fun and glamorous, and she's playing pretend, but she's a virgin.
Yeah.
She doesn't really know or understand this. And then her boyfriend is like, are you having sex with those guys that you're modeling with? And her friends are like, oh, you're such a slut.
Yeah.
And then men start sexualizing her and treating her that way. And it's like and Taryn, I think, she doesn't even have a concept of boundaries, to the point where there's this wonderful scene where Taryn and Lori are having a sleepover, and they're talking about, oh, have you ever done it before? And Taryn was like, yeah, it was this guy. He was a lot older, and I didn't really know what was happening. It wasn't that great. I really, kissing is better, and it's like,
Yeah.
actually, this is like a bad thing that happened to you. But she has no sense of boundaries, so
Yeah.
she's like, it was just a thing that happened. Which I thought that was that's an example of how kind of subtle and smart this movie is, that it doesn't that's exactly how a person like that would perceive something like that happening to them.
Yeah.
uh,
And I've had many conversations with many of my friends who, when I was like a party kid and hanging out with, like, people, young women that were modeling, a lot of it. Yeah, that sounds right. That
yeah,
sounds like, yeah, it's this older guy, usually a photographer or someone, an agent or something. Yeah.
yeah. And there's this another line where Wesley's talking to Taryn about doing his collection, and he's like, we're looking for innocence here. Can you do innocence? And then she looks at him and says, Wesley, no one's innocent anymore. And I was like, that's such a good line. But it's yeah, so it's kind of like stealing these girls' innocence and sexualizing it and commodifying it. And then you really see like the emotional price that these girls pay for being sexualized before they even have a sense of their own sexuality or have even had sex.
Yeah, they don't
Uh,
even know. Like, they really don't know. It's like, we said it's pretend. And what I thought they did a really good job with Lori, is having her be so dressed down and plain and, like, just a really nice kid. And
mhm.
then when they put makeup on her, and Craig T. Nelson's like, she looks like she's 30. I was like, she does. Like, she looks like she's 30 and she's a mistress. Like, she looks like me. Look at this. I was like, the whole time I was doing my makeup, I was like, I want Craig T. Nelson to see these photos and be like, she looks like she's 30. Everything big and out of proportion. Whereas in high school, she had, I'm sure she had basic natural makeup on, camera makeup, but she looked very, you know, she looked plain, which was good for the character and age appropriate.
Yeah, and she never seemed, when she seemed to love she wanted to be a model because she kind of loved the fantasy of it. And there was a scene with her sort of play acting where her mom called out different names of different magazines. And then Lori would be like, okay, now I'm doing Vogue. Now I'm doing Cosmo. It was just, it's like a game. On the opposite end, we see people like Racine and Wesley, who are Taryn's mother, who are really exploiting these kids. And then as soon as Lori is like, no, I want out of this, then Racine is like, oh, forget about her. This is what we get for dealing with civilians.
Yes.
I've got a great new girl that you'll love. And it's like, it almost sounds like she's a pimp or something.
It is. It's very pimpy because he even says, "Oh, Taryn." The designer Wesley. When she was talking about how she had sex the first time, Taryn, I was like, was it Wesley? Like, was that the one? Because of the way
Well,
he just.
well, I thought that, but then in the opening, when they're changing her makeup or touching up her makeup after the opening modeling montage, the makeup artists warn her about Wesley.
Oh
And they're
yeah,
like,
okay.
oh, he's a real, like he's famous, but he's very. And she's like, oh, I'll tell him to keep his hands off the merchandise. And they're like, well, don't blow the gig.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that they hadn't, but it was another Wesley
It
who
was
did
another
that.
Wesley. There's more than
Yeah.
one, and
Yes.
because he's like, oh, Taryn, she looks too experienced. I want
Mm-hmm.
someone innocent. Like that's something predatorial. Like I don't want to, someone who's done it before. I want it's very like, I want a virgin. Like it's
Yeah.
creepy. It's very creepy. Ugh.
Yeah. And it still is very much there, this whole thing of like, recruiting models when they're like, 14 or whatever. And models start very, very young. So do actors now, and all kinds of people in showbiz. But yeah, I guess we've made progress in some ways, in that it's sort of frowned upon now to have young girls sexualized in that way. Like, the stuff that Brooke Shields was doing in the 70s would absolutely be canceled now.
Yeah.
But I think that the industry is still, it's still
Predatory.
runs in that same kind of way.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is what's interesting is in the documentary they said, before the 70s, the older women were sexualized. Women, in their 30s and 40s, developed mature women were sexualized on screen, like Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield. But then the feminist movement came and was like, you're not going to do this anymore. We're equal to you. And the response was then everything became underage women, like our young girls. And I thought
Mm.
this was an interesting point in the documentary that they made was, and she was like basically one of, she wasn't the only one. There was a lot of TV movies in that era. Like, for instance, we talked about Linda Blair.
Oh yeah,
The,
Born Innocent, right?
oh, come on. Yeah, they really, sexualized her. And same thing with Jodie Foster.
Yeah,
Her
yeah.
parents did with Taxi Driver, and then Bugsy Malone. Like, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? So a lot of the actresses, and they looked really young. Like, yeah. So that's one of the points they made in the documentary of Brooke Shields is that it went from being grown women to young underage, extremely underage, not like even resembling women, like women who children putting Brooke Shields in heavy makeup when she is 10, you know
Hmm.
things like that. It was really odd, and I thought that was an interesting statement. And even in the 90s, it was Larry Clark. It was, you know, kids. That movie was really traumatic. I mean, especially for me to watch because that was
Yeah.
kind of like what was going on around me. That was my friend group and things like that. But also that there wasn't a lot of outcry. Like now that would be canceled. Like now, no way. Or even the Calvin Klein ads that came out then, where it was
Oh
very.
yeah. Yeah.
That was. I mean, it
The
was all
what the
types of.
ones yeah, the ones with like the sort of like amateur porn kind of they
Yeah.
had that Fiona Apple criminal video feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was very sleazy. Like it
Yeah.
was, you know, even up until Girls Gone Wild. Like people are like, this one person did that. I'm like, one person? One? It was the whole culture. Like everywhere you went. Like it was not like it was like you were lucky not. Like it was rare not to be essayed. It was rare. Like
Yeah.
when like I don't know anyone from that time that wasn't. Okay?
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to keep it real. So when people are like, "Oh, they did this." I mean, there are people that you just knew about. Like everybody knew. But
Hmm.
um th- they got away with it. It was just like, so what? It, you know, now we've decided we don't, that's not okay anymore. And I'm glad, you know, but
Yeah.
you know, but the model agency is very predatory in so many ways, not just modeling, but also like environmentally and on the workers. Um, you know, and I think culturally where we are now with fashion, it's like, what do we want? What do we want out of it? Like, no, really, what do we want? Because if we can just pay $2 for like an evening gown made, you know, by prisoners in China that also has lead in the fabric that's slowly poisoning us. Like
Yeah.
what are we trying to accomplish? Like what do you want out of fashion? You know?
Yeah.
And those are big questions to ask because it's not enough to ask like when we look at models like what do you know now it's even Vogue put out like this modeling call all ages all sizes you know inclusivity because you know people the consumer drives these businesses like
Yeah.
when people are mad about something it's like well the dollar is democracy how this works so if you know like that whole thing about you know prostitution it's like it exists because there's buyers no business
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
so who are the buyers you know that type of thing um so it goes back to the fashion thing where I remember there was a huge controversy like in the 90s where they did do like they did like bigger girls modeling clothes for bigger women like but they didn't want it like it didn't sell so they went back to like the skinny really
The Kate
skinny model
Moss. Yeah.
so it goes back to psychology it goes back to like what's driving people to buy things like what is it and it's like a fantasy it's like you will look like this and be this person when you wear this
Hmm.
you know
Yeah, yeah. And I think now it's sort of, it's moved towards more like influencers and people being like, "Oh my God, I just got this new top and I'm so excited about it. It's by this designer." And you're like, "Wait, is this somebody that I know? Is this a friend of mine or is this an
yeah
influencer? I can't, I'm not
I can't
sure."
tell
Then I'll be like, "Oh my God, I love this." But I've never been like, "Oh my God, this item of clothing." Maybe like a t-shirt that I thought looked cool or something, but that's it. It's so, but yeah, the whole industry is different. But I felt like this movie said a lot of things that are very relevant still today,
yes
and it said it in a way that was uh, really empathetic and sympathetic towards the girls and gave them an emotional life, and it didn't feel um, exploitative of them, where we were like, "Ooh, he's gonna try, he's gonna try it with her." We were like, "Ooh, let's watch her fall into degradation." It was like some of these movies are. It
yeah
really felt like it was on the girls' side.
yeah
And
like I
so
was
I
glad she got out I was glad
yes.
Lori you know I didn't like that she ended up with Eric Stoltz I didn't know what
I
was that
know.
about. I didn't.
I know, because he literally like tried to attack her when he thought that she was sleeping with the
Yeah.
guys that, and it's just, it was like he wasn't, he wasn't a good boyfriend. So that
No.
I was a little bit like, okay, well,
And
but
his sister's a bully, like the character, and that
yeah,
they were all like mean to her. So that was a little off, but
yeah,
oh, the looks were
those.
amazing. The
Mhm.
song by Mark Snow, performed by Brock something. Sorry, Brock.
Yeah, that's okay.
But Mark Snow came back again. Mark
Mark Snow did the
Snow
music.
did the
Yeah.
music, wrote our favorite song, Paper Dolls.
Yep,
I
Mark
don't know the
Snow
rest of it.
did so many TV movies, so many good scores. Did the X
Crazy in
Files
Alabama.
theme. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We were just talking. Time for us to do our monologue,
That is right.
which is
Mary Catherine Gallagher.
yes, it's our Mary Catherine Gallagher monologue, which Mary Catherine Gallagher was obsessed with TV movies and would always do movies or do monologues from TV movies. And so, in her honor, each episode we choose a monologue from the TV movie that we saw, maybe a short scene, and a lot of times it's with me playing a horrible mother and Katie playing the victimized daughter. And so we don't want to break tradition this time.
No.
So we are doing the scene where Taryn and her mother, Julia, between Taryn and her mother, Julia, and Taryn has been invited by Lori to take the train over to Jersey and have a sleepover. And Julia's like, no. And Taryn just packs a bag and she's like, I'm going to go. And they have a confrontation, and Julia is like, let's go do something, just the two of us. Don't we have fun? And trying that tactic, and then it doesn't work.
Look at my doggie. I love her. She is such a good dog.
So this is Taryn and Julia having a fight about Taryn going over to Lori's for a sleepover. And go.
Mother, I want to go to Lori's house. I want to sleep over. I want to do what other kids my age do.
Fine. If you want to go, go. Go be a regular kid.
Mom, it's only overnight.
Don't you like your life, or don't you like me, or both?
Mommy.
Do you think you got to be supermodel Taryn Blake by some kind of miracle? You think it was always, yes, Mrs. Blake, no, Mrs. Blake, of course, Mrs. Blake. When I was your age, I was waiting tables, Taryn. And after your father took off, it was back to the diner so that I could work nights to spend days with you. You think this was all just luck? I dragged you from go see to go see on baby powder commercials and diaper commercials and catalog work, anything I could get just so you would eat well and dress well and have a damn tutor and drive around in cabs so that you didn't have to freeze your buns off waiting for a bus. You've never been cold or hungry or afraid that you wouldn't make the rent, and you never will, because I made damn sure you never will.
What's any of this got to do with me going to see Lori?
Because she's using you, don't you see? And I won't let my hard work go down the drain.
Is that what I am to you? Hard work?
You're my life, Taryn. Don't you know that?
Bye.
You want to walk out on me? Go ahead. Like father, like daughter.
See you tomorrow.
And scene.
Yeah.
There we go.
So good. You're so good.
Thank you. You're my life, Taryn.
You're my life.
Don't you know that?
Yes. Oh my God.
I know, I know. I mean, but she's actually good in the scene.
She's
And
amazing. She's
yeah.
so good. She's even one of my favorite moments that was like brutal when she said it, when she told Taryn, you know, she's like, he found someone else that he wanted more than you. Like when she was talking about why they wanted to do the double shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And why, you know, he just found someone else that he wanted more than you. He didn't want you anymore. You've lost it. You know, I was like, that is to tell like a, you know, your child star, like your professional child actor or model, that's woof.
Yeah.
That's harsh.
Yeah,
And of course, like
exactly.
Taryn started crying, and I'm like, God, I would just have to. That's hard. No, no.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's the thing that's really gonna stick with me from this is the relationship between those two characters and Darryl Hannah and Joan Hackett and their interactions. That was really so good.
It was
So
so good.
thank you for introducing me to this, which is, you know, great in the ways that you would expect it to be, but also great in ways that you wouldn't expect it to be.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so anyway, why don't you tell our listeners and viewers where they can find us?
You can find us on YouTube, although it's hard. They make it really hard on YouTube. They do. It's Mother Murder Podcaster at YouTube, but you'll probably have better luck putting in something like Roe versus Wade, Mother Murder Podcaster, and then you'll find our channel. You can find us on TikTok at Mother Murder Podcaster, or Instagram, Mother Murder Podcaster, and on all places you listen to podcasts.
Yes,
Mother
and
Murder Podcaster.
we've got a visual podcast with video on YouTube, which you should absolutely check out because Katie gives amazing looks. I'm just here in my t-shirt, but Katie is serving you looks on looks on looks on looks. And
Looks. Because I
and
wasn't a child star, and this is how I shine now. Take your daughter to go sees. Let the world see the talent. Credit to me. Me.
And then we also have audio podcast on Spotify. But you should really see this outfit. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time on Mother Murderer Podcaster.